My grandmother said you respect someone, you got to dress to show them.
Yeah.
So actually, the guy that was just in here is my best friend, and we have a podcast. So we're actually going to try to get you on our podcast.
Oh, I'd love to. That is crisp.
Well, thank
telling
you.
you, this man's
Thank
on
you.
fire.
It's a boy's large.
Jeez Louise.
It's a boy's large.
It's a boy's large.
This might be wrong, but what's the underwear doing? Just curious, because everything is working so well. Never mind.
It's
You don't have to
equally
go.
crisp. I can tell you that. Equally crisp. Yes.
Name and outline
Yeah.
to that camera, and I'll
Yeah.
start your time.
Jake Hamilton, Fox Chicago. Guys, first of all, what an honor. Seriously, thank you for your time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Brian, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. Because of your story and because of how widespread it is, and now as a result of this film, and essentially the hell that you went through, there are men and women out there who will not have to experience what you went through. I know you went through hell and back to get to this point, but because there are people that won't have to do it because of you, is there any aspect of it where you go, yeah, it was worth it?
No, I don't wish the experience on nobody. If you ask me, hey, if you said you're gonna help a lot of people, you're gonna save a lot of lives, but you're gonna have to lose 10 of yours, that'd be a hard decision to make. And I don't think that I could, after knowing what that 10-year experience would be like, I don't know if I would say that I could agree to something like that. But I am here, and so I try not to think much about what could have been or what should have been, but what is. And I'm in a space now where, yeah, my story can be shared and will be shared in hopes of telling the story of many others who have experienced it, and also those who unfortunately may have to encounter it somewhere along the lines in the future.
For sure. There's a great line in the movie, there's no good way to tell a bad story. So Tom, I want to ask you, did you just figure out a way to do it, or is this inherently not a bad story?
No, to me, it's not a bad story. It has darkness in it. It has difficulty in it. Brian took on so much. So many of our sins were on his back. But the choices that he made, what he came to, this positivity, this perseverance, this perspective of getting himself free even when he was behind bars, that's why I did the film. I mean, we have enough stories that, that the cautionary tales that end with darkness. But Brian turned this into something positive. Brian's story is going to free others. And I wanted to be a small part of that arc.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that positivity, one of the things that really just blew my mind is how positive you have stayed after everything that happened. I gotta be honest, if I walked out of there, I would look at everyone and go, I got a problem with all of you, and you're all gonna hear it. But you just have a smile on your face and you're turning. How do you do that? Because it's unfathomable to me.
It's a choice. Just like you explained what your choice would have been. My choice is the latter, which is to put into the world what I want to receive from the world. That's love, that's acceptance, that's positivity, that's good vibrations. I could not allow one moment in time to dictate the duration of my life. I had to want something more for me. And I realized that I didn't have control over what I was going through, but I did have control over myself while going through an unwanted situation. So just practicing that and keeping that in my mind day in and day out while being in the hardest moments in my life really restored the light in a very dark place for me.
It's absolutely unbelievable.
That's why I did the movie.
Yeah.
If Brian had led with negativity, I would have hugged him and said, man, I wish you well.
So you never would have done the Jake Hamilton story, because it would have been a very negative story coming out of that. I got to tell you, Tom. There's a good chance that a majority of the laughs that I had growing up in the '90s were a result of your films, whether it was Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, The Nutty Professor, Bruce Almighty, or Patch Adams. I know tonally they're so completely different than this film. But did you learn anything on those initial films that were still kind of transferred over to something like this, even though they're so completely different?
Oh, absolutely. Inside of a solid comedy are the dramatic structures that build out different films. So you have character development, you have story twists and turns. There is a reality to great comedy. So, but it's a different tone. The Brian's story takes on a different challenge for me, because I had to be authentic with everything that I did. This has to reflect Brian's true experience. While there is some poetic license, we really want it to be true to his story. So you just simply seep yourself into this life. You have him around as a co-collaborator, and I think we have something special.
I think you definitely do. Because trust me, I do a lot of these junkets. If I don't like the movie, I usually just sit here and go, it's a film.
Right.
And it exists. And as we wrap up, most of us will never have to experience the worst period of our lives on the big screen. So I'm curious, whenever you first, were there any aspects of that when it's on the big screen, it's projecting in front of you, where you had to look away, where you just went, I don't want to watch this part?
Yeah. There's a lot of scenes, without giving the movie away, just watching my mom struggle and what she had to endure. And just seeing the emotional roller coaster in the form of a film, the ups and the downs, the almost there but so far back and so far to go. It's just a powerful film that I think it's really going to inform a lot of people of the tragedy of wrongful convictions.
Yeah. Well, I don't often get to end interviews by saying this, but thank you for making a truly important movie that I think is going to affect a lot of people and hopefully change a lot of lives.
Yeah,
so seriously, thank you
of
very much
course.
for your time. Really, it's an honor. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Thank
you.
Guys, good to see you.
Good to see
You know,
brother.
watching this movie last night, there was this moment where I kind of paused and went, I really need to readjust what a bad day is in my life. Because the things that,
Right.
especially in this business, things that
Right.
that constitute a bad day, you sort of,
great point.
it changes your perspective. When you were making this movie, was there ever a moment when you went, I've never had a bad day in my entire life compared to what he's been through?
Well, I've definitely had a few bad days.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I remember talking to Brian, the very first conversation we had, I was like, dang, brother, like, I can't even complain compared to what you've been through. And he said, no. We don't judge. He said, I don't judge people's experiences against mine. Like, if you've had an experience that is impactful to you and weighted against you, yours is as valid to you as mine is to mine. So I don't judge. What you've been through is absolutely is substantial to you and where you're at in life, right? So it counts.
Yeah.
But the beauty is, and I love what you said, because that is something I would love for the audience to take away, and the fact that, there are so many things that we can be grateful for, and we oftentimes don't make the choice to see the light out of a situation versus the dark. So we have to make that more inspired choice to grab onto the positivity. And this film, I think, definitely teaches that a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, it really is a great perspective reset for anybody. I mean, you watch this film, you watch what Brian went through, you watch the adversity, and yet coming out on the other side and being as the guy that he is it's inspiring. So I honestly didn't know it quite when I was making it. I kept meeting all these amazing people, and Brian and Justin Brooks and the CIP, and I was like, what is happening here? I mean, it was one incredible person after another, and certainly Tom with his passion for the project. And but then all of that goes away, and suddenly, months later, you're sitting in a theater, and then you get to see the entirety of what
Right.
you've done, and it was thrilling.
And you've been a part of so many movies that have really impacted the way people look at life, whether it's As Good as It Gets or Little Miss Sunshine, and obviously now I think Brian Banks is going to join the ranks of those. Did you expect that to be a part of what you were going to get into in this business, is having people come up to you and go, not only was that an enjoyable 2 hours in a movie theater, but my entire life perspective has changed?
No, I didn't think that, and I still don't. I mean, honestly, I took this movie because I thought, first and foremost, I mean, I hadn't met Brian. I didn't really know what the CIP was all about. I was just I just loved the story. I thought, that's a hell of a movie. Even if it had not been true, it was a great story. And the fact that, the messages in it and the people are real, and this story is honestly told, incredibly honestly. I'm humbled to be a part of it. It's great.
Most of us.
He's actually lying because it's in his contract to take only life.
Yeah, only will need to affect people's lives,
It's written right. I've seen it.
Guilty
I've
as
seen it.
charged.
That's a damn good contract, man.
Well, it's just a little staple we put down at the bottom. And
Most of us will never have to experience sort of like the lowest points in our lives on the big screen with an entire audience to sit there and go, wow, can't believe you had to go through that.
Right.
If someone were going to make a movie about your life, what is the moment that you think would make the best cinematic experience?
I don't know. I've definitely had an interesting life. It shouldn't be about my life. It should be about my mom's life and her perseverance, because we've been through some things. Some people know we struggled a little bit. We used to live in our car at a time. Been homeless 3 times. She was a single mom. She was in the Marine Corps, so I was born on base. So we've been through a lot of interesting situations just to survive, and it teaches you about appreciating a little bit of life, because you never know you're this close to you know what I mean, to your whole reality flipping over. But she made it. She made it through, and my sister, my brother, and I'd like to think that we're decent human beings, and I think she's led a very pivotal life. So I think just her transition through being a single mom to surviving and being able to raise human beings. I think that whole thing needs to be its own little story.
Yeah,
But
I swear, if they make a movie out of your life and I'm not invited to that junket, I will be so upset, man. So upset.
I'm not following up that movie.
Just a movie about the junket world.
Everybody looks over in the room. There's like, Greg, I'm like,
So he lived in his car. Greg, what do you got, man?
You know what?
Top that.
I'm just trying to get cast in Aldous' movie, man. That's all.
Yeah. Guys, I don't often get to end interviews with saying this, but seriously, thank you for making a movie that I think is going to change the way people look at things, and hopefully will have a positive impact that'll ripple through for a lot of people's lives. So seriously, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Really an honor. Thank you for your time. Ladies, good to see you.
Hi.
Watching this movie, there was this moment where I kind of stopped and went, I really need to readjust what a bad day is for me. Because especially in this job, there'll be moments where I'm like, oh God, I'm having a bad day. And then you see everything that this man goes through and you go, I don't know if I've ever had a bad day in my life.
I know.
When you do a movie like this, do you pause and sort of go like, I've got to readjust my entire perspective of what a bad day is?
Absolutely. I remember thinking, even one of our producers on set said, wow, we really can't complain about anything on this set.
No, you can't. I mean, and watching Brian Banks, the way he lives his life, and you say, you have the right to be bitter, but he's so about, I'm moving forward, and he has a positive attitude. You think, I can't complain about anything.
Do it.
No.
And it's so inspiring to see how he brings joy to everyone he meets. He's such a positive soul and light soul. You know,
it's so funny. I haven't spoken to him yet, but that's one of the questions I want to ask him. Is like, how do you maintain such a positive? Because I would walk out and be like, I got problems with all of you, and you're all going to sit down and hear every single one of them.
Especially when because we all feel like we have a purpose in life,
right.
And we have something that we've dreamed about, for all of our lives, and to have that ripped away from you. I don't know what I would do if I couldn't make people laugh or if I couldn't act. How do you move forward when that has been taken away from you? He was number 11. He was ranked 11th in the nation as a defensive lineman. So, he would have gone pro.
Right.
Yeah.
And when that's just taken away from you on a whim of someone, I don't know how you come back from it. But Brian Banks is a living testimony that you can.
For sure. Most of us don't have to relive some of the worst thing that's ever happened to us on the big screen. If they were to make a movie about some of the struggles that you guys have been through, what would that movie be about?
I know it'd be called This Bitch Is Crazy.
I don't know if I could do it.
Can I please do the junket for that movie?
That's a really fun question.
I would love to see that movie.
All the mess.
What would you do?
I don't know. I interviewed Tommy Lee Jones once, so that would probably we could make a whole junket movie about that. Sorry
Just
if anyone
about that.
involved in this room. If Tommy Lee Jones'
We
publicist is in
love
this room.
Tommy Lee.
So that was a rough day.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, so that was a rough day, but
Okay.
that might be it. So really quick, I just want to give a shout out to I'm a Chicago guy.
Yes,
and I know that you are a fan of Chicago.
Love Chicago. It's my town.
Biggest influence that the city had on you, and sort of what it means to you still today, because I know you still come through when you can.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'll be there screening the weekend of the opening with young boys from different schools to see this movie. I think
that's awesome.
I think it's very important for kids to see this movie
100%.
about choices and about how things can change at the drop of a hat, and your entire life has changed because of choices. But I love Chicago because I think Chicago is a very warm city. I think people in Chicago are so loving, and they smile a lot. People always say, "You're not from here, are you?" And it's from Chicago.
If you need a place to crash, I have a very comfortable fold-out couch.
Oh, well,
So you are
And
welcome
I've never
to.
been, so I would love
You're
to
welcome
come.
in. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Now-
I've never had a man offer me a fold-up couch.
You're there.
Thank you very
You might
much.
have a 70-pound
All right.
dog curl up next to you, but beyond
Now,
that,
I've been out
yeah.
for dogs, but no fold-up couch.
Okay, fine. I'll show you a picture. So this is Daenerys. So she'll be sleeping next to you if you guys come through Chicago.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah. So there you go.
So
Daenerys.
Daenerys, yes, of course.
Of course.
And as we wrap up, a lot of times when people make biopics, they don't actually have the real person sort of available offhand. And I imagine each of you sort of had a moment with Brian. What was the most powerful, the most significant thing that he told you that when you walked away, you went, damn, that's good?
Powerful, most significant. I mean, Brian's a life coach, so everything he says is
Yes.
quite uplifting
Yeah,
and very
I'm
positive.
going to cry my way through this interview whenever I go talk to him in a second, I know.
For me, I mean, being on set was a wonderful experience. I mean, meeting him and thinking, wow, what an incredible man. And he was there every day on set for us. You know, he helped me with my character because my character is based off two people that he knows. And I think he was there for everyone. It was great.
Yeah, and I think from Brian, with me, the love that he has for his mother, Leomi, that was his rock, that was his foundation. She drove 3.5 hours to see him and back every other weekend for the entire time he was incarcerated. She wrote him a letter every day. So he stayed sane because of his mother. So he typically would come in the morning, talk to me about the relationship, about him and his mother, and then he couldn't watch the scenes. He was not there when Aldous and I take the scenes because he's so connected emotionally to the pain that his mother went through. So to see how much love he has for Leomi, and she's such an understated little hero. She is,
and she was always on set as well.
Yeah, I love the pictures that we saw.
Yes, and so from I got from him, you know, she just held him close. She was that bedrock for him while he was going through the worst of his life.
Yeah. Well, ladies, I could talk to you all day. The movie is absolutely incredible. I promise I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. So seriously, thank you
so
for your
much.
time. It really was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Really nice to
let me
meet
know when
you.
you guys come through Chicago. Seriously, you're welcome anytime.
You can show us some more.
I'd love to.